the weaver of sorrows. In the suffocating stillness of my grandmother's stilt house, I stared at my reflection, the moonlight carving shadows across the teak floor. The heavy, antique silk of the Sampot felt unnaturally cold against my skin, a stark contrast to the humid air that left a sheen of sweat on my neck. Outside, the drone of cicadas was punctuated by the dry rustle of banana leaves, a sound that almost masked the faint, thread-like whisper emanating from the fabric itself. My eyes, sunken and dark in the antique mirror, weren't entirely my own. They held a hungry emptiness, reflecting a century of wearers before me. A faint, sweet smell like bruised jasmine and grave dirt rose from the intricate golden patterns, a perfume of slow, elegant decay. It had been a gift from my grandmother, my Yi Esre, a family heirloom she'd called it, her voice thick with a reverence I didn't quite understand. She pulled it from a heavy, camphor-scented trunk, the silk unfolding like a sigh in the dim light of the afternoon. A Sampot Hall El Boak, its patterns so complex they seemed to shift and writhe like living things. The main color was a deep, bruised purple, the color of a twilight sky after a storm, interwoven with threads of the purest gold that shimmered like captured starlight. "It was your great-grandmother," Yi had said, her wrinkled fingers tracing one of the golden lotus motifs. "She was the most beautiful woman in the province. They said this Sampot chose her." I'd laughed then, a light, modern sound that felt out of place in this house of old wood and older memories. I was a city girl, born and raised in the controlled chaos of Phnom Penh. I worked in digital marketing, my life governed by algorithms and deadlines, not by ancient silks that chose their wearers. But I was here, back in our family's village in Kampong Kam for Pichum Ben, the festival of the dead, and to please my grandmother, I had agreed to wear it. Now standing before the clouded mirror, my laughter felt like a distant memory. The girl staring back at me was a stranger. The Sampot clung to my hips with a possessive weight, its coldness seeping into my bones. The whispers grew a little louder, a soft, sibilant sound like silk being dragged over stone. I tried to dismiss it. It was just the house settling, the wind playing tricks. The strange reflection was just a trick of the low light, the warped, antique glass. I reached up to touch my face to reassure myself, but in the mirror the reflection's hand moved a fraction of a second slower than mine. Its fingers, long and pale, didn't touch its cheek. Instead, they traced the line of the golden silk at its waist. And then its lips, which were my lips, curved into a slow, knowing smile that I was not making. A cold dread, colder than the silk, washed over me. I slammed my eyes shut, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. When I opened them again, the reflection was normal, mirroring my own terrified expression perfectly. But the scent of jasmine and earth was stronger now, and I knew, with a certainty that defied all logic, that I was no longer alone in my own skin. That first night was just the beginning. I took the Sampot off, folding it carefully and placing it back in the trunk at the foot of my bed. The coldness lingered on my skin for hours. I tried to sleep, but the humid night air felt heavy, charged with something I couldn't name. The familiar sounds of the village, the distant barking of a dog, the chirping of geckos on the walls were drowned out by the phantom rustle of silk that seemed to echo in my ears. I drifted into a restless sleep and found myself in a dream. I was standing in a grove of sugar palm trees, the air thick with the cloying sweetness of their sap. Before me was a loom, larger and more intricate than any I had ever seen. A woman sat there, her back to me. Her hair was a river of black ink, cascading down to the floor. Her hands moved with a feverish, hypnotic grace, weaving threads of purple and gold. I couldn't see her face, but I could feel her sorrow. It was a palpable thing, a suffocating blanket of grief and rage that radiated from her in waves. With every pass of the shuttle, a whisper seemed to be woven into the fabric. A promise. A curse. I woke up with a gasp, my own cheeks wet with tears that were not my own. The smell of jasmine was so strong in the room it was almost nauseating. The next day, I tried to act normal. I helped my mother and my aunts prepare the rice offerings for the monks at the pagoda. The rhythmic pounding of the mortar and pestle, the fragrant steam rising from the cooking rice, the easy chatter of my family. It was all so wonderfully ordinary. I tried to anchor myself to it, to convince myself that the previous night had been nothing more than an overactive imagination fueled by old stories. "Yi," I said, trying to sound casual as I sat beside her on the veranda. "That Sampot, it's very beautiful. Do you know who made it?" My grandmother's hands, busy weaving a basket from palm leaves, stilled for a moment. She didn't look at me. Her gaze was fixed on the shimmering green of the rice paddies stretching out before us. "It is very old, Kun, from a time when the threads held more than just color. They held stories. They held life." "What kind of life?" I pressed, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. She finally turned to me. Her eyes, usually so warm, were clouded with a deep-seated fear. "Some lives are full of light and happiness. Others are filled with a pain so deep it stains everything they touch. Be careful with it, Likina. Beauty like that always has a price." Her words were a warning, but they were too late. I was already ensnared. That afternoon, drawn by a compulsion I couldn't resist, I opened the trunk again. The Sampot was lying there, the golden thread seeming to glitter with a malevolent intelligence. I told myself I just wanted to look at it, to study the patterns in the clear light of day. But my hands moved of their own accord, lifting the heavy silk, my fingers tracing the cold, intricate designs. As I did, a small, hard object tucked deep within a fold pressed against my skin. My fingers fumbled to retrieve it. It was a small, tarnished silver locket shaped like a lotus bud. It was attached to the inner waistband by a single, sturdy thread. With trembling hands, I pried it open. I expected a miniature portrait, a lock of hair perhaps, but it was empty, save for a single, perfectly preserved yet dried jasmine flower. The moment I touched the flower, a jolt, like a static shock, shot up my arm. An image flashed through my mind, so vivid it felt like a memory. A woman's hands, stained dark with indigo dye, desperately clutching the hand of a man who was turning away from her. The sense of betrayal, of utter desolation, was so profound it stole my breath. I slammed the locket shut and threw the Sampot back into the trunk, my heart pounding. This was not my imagination. This was real. The fabric didn't just hold a story, it held a person full of pain, and she was waking up. The following nights grew worse. I refused to wear the Sampot, refused to even open the trunk, but its presence filled the room. The whispers were no longer just formless sounds. They were starting to resolve into words, soft and seductive, spoken in an archaic form of Khmer I barely understood. Words promising beauty, admiration, love, the very things the woman in my vision had lost. My reflection became my tormentor. Every time I passed the mirror, I saw her looking back at me, her eyes in my face, her posture in my stance. She looked tired, so deeply, soul-crushingly tired, but there was a hunger in her gaze that terrified me. It was a hunger for life, for experience, for all the years she had been denied. My life. She would stand in the mirror for a few seconds after I had turned away, a ghostly afterimage, her head tilted, a sad, predatory smile on her lips. I started to change. I lost my appetite. The delicious amok tray my mother made tasted like ash in my mouth. Dark circles bloomed under my eyes, making me look gaunt, haunted. I grew listless during the day, my energy draining away as if something was siphoning it from me. But at night, a strange, restless energy would fill me. I would feel the urge to put on the Sampot, to walk under the moonlight, to feel the cool silk against my skin. It was a constant battle of wills, a fight for control of my own body. My mother noticed the change. "Likina, Aun, you look so pale," she said, her hand on my forehead. "Are you feeling ill? Maybe the city has made you weak to the village air." I wanted to tell her. I wanted to scream that an ancient ghost was trying to steal my body through a cursed piece of silk. But how could I? They would think I was losing my mind. Only my grandmother seemed to understand. I would catch her watching me, her face a mask of pity and fear. It was she who finally broke the silence. One evening, as I sat staring blankly out the window, she came and sat beside me. She placed a small, blessed string bracelet around my wrist. "This cannot go on, Kun," she said, her voice a low, urgent whisper. "The weaver is growing stronger. She likes you. You have a strong spirit and she is hungry." "The weaver?" I asked, my voice trembling. "The woman who made the Sampot. Her name was Molly's. A long time ago, before your great-grandmother was even born, she was the greatest weaver in this region. Her silks were like magic, but her heart was broken. The man she loved, a wealthy merchant, promised her marriage but abandoned her for a woman of higher status. In her grief, she locked herself away and wove this one last masterpiece, her magnum opus. But she did not use normal dyes, Kun. They say she mixed her own tears into the purple, her own blood into the gold. She wove her sorrow, her rage, and her own spirit into every single thread. She died at the loom, her life force completely poured into the cloth. A cold dread spread through my veins. "So, she's in the Sampot." "Is the Sampot," Yi corrected grimly. "It is her body and her prison. It grants the wearer unparalleled beauty, makes them the center of all attention, a reflection of the life she wanted. But in return it feeds. It slowly, elegantly drinks their life, their vitality, until there is nothing left but an empty shell for Molly's to look through. Your great-grandmother was strong. She wore it only once and knew. She locked it away. But every generation, a girl is born who the Sampot calls to. A girl with a spirit that reminds it of its own." My blood ran cold. "Me." "You," she confirmed, her hand tightening on my arm. "We must take you to the crew Khmer, the old healer at the edge of the village. He knows of these things. He is the only one who might know how to sever your connection to her." The crew Khmer lived in a small wooden house, surrounded by a garden of medicinal herbs that filled the air with a pungent, earthy aroma. He was an ancient man, his skin like wrinkled parchment, his eyes dark and piercing, as if they could see past the physical world and into the realm of spirits. We sat on a mat on his floor, Yi explaining the situation in hushed, fearful tones. I showed him the locket. He took it, his gnarled fingers turning it over and over. He didn't need to open it. "The scent of a ghost is on you, child," he said, his voice raspy like dry leaves. He looked directly at me, and I felt as if he was staring into my soul. "She has her threads in you now. You wear her sorrow like a cloak. Every time you feel that phantom cold, that is her touch. Every time you dream of her loom, that is her memory. Can you help her?" my grandmother pleaded. The old man was silent for a long time, his eyes closed in concentration. The only sound was the buzzing of flies and the distant chanting from the village pagoda. "The spirit is tied to the cloth by a powerful act of will," he finally said. "It cannot be exorcised like a common ghost. To destroy the Sampot would be to release her, a furious, untethered spirit. That would be far worse. The connection must be persuaded to break." "How?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "She feeds on vanity and desire. The desire to be beautiful, to be loved, to be seen. It was what she was denied, and so it is what she preys on. You must reject the gift. You must defile the perfection she died to create. But it will not be easy. She will fight you. She will show you visions of everything you could have if you just surrender. She will feel like a part of you, and tearing her away will feel like tearing away a piece of your own soul." He gave me a small pouch of salt and blessed herbs. "Keep this on you. It will not repel her, but it will help anchor your spirit in your own body. The rest is up to you. You must be stronger than a century of sorrow." That night the storm came. The sky, which had been a clear, star-filled canopy, turned a familiar shade of bruised purple. The wind rose to a howl, thrashing the banana trees and rattling the wooden shutters of the house. The power went out, plunging us into a thick, primal darkness, broken only by strobing flashes of lightning. And I knew she was coming for me. The air in my room dropped in temperature until I could see my breath. The trunk at the foot of my bed began to vibrate, a low hum that I could feel in the floorboards in my teeth. The lid creaked open on its own. The Sampot lifted out of it, unfurling in the darkness like a great, spectral wing. It floated towards me, the golden threads glowing with a faint, phosphorescent light. The whispers were no longer in my ear. They were inside my head. "Wear me, little bird. Let me make you beautiful. Let them all see you. He will see you. He will regret ever leaving you." Her pain and mine were becoming indistinguishable. I saw flashes of my own life, my own insecurities. A boy in university who never called me back. A promotion I was passed over for at work. Every small hurt, every feeling of inadequacy, she found it and amplified it, twisting it into a weapon against me. The sampot draped itself around my waist. The cold was agonizing, a soul-deep chill that made my bones ache. I stumbled towards the mirror, which seemed to be the only thing in the room that was clearly illuminated. My reflection was no longer my own. It was her, Molly's. Her face was heart-wrenchingly beautiful, but her eyes were black pits of endless misery. She was weeping, silent tears tracking down her perfect cheeks, and yet she was smiling, a smile of triumphant despair. My body began to move on its own. My hands smoothed the silk. My head tilted at an elegant angle. I felt my consciousness, my own sense of self, being pushed down into a small, dark corner of my own mind. I was a passenger in my own body. Through her eyes, I saw my grandmother standing in the doorway, her face pale with terror, clutching a candle that did little to push back the oppressive dark. She tried to hide me away, the voice in my head hissed. "They all did, but you found me, you understand." I was losing. I could feel myself fatting. The pouch of herbs the crew Khmer had given me felt useless, defile the perfection he had said. But how? My limbs wouldn't obey me. Then through the haze of Molly's grief, I remembered the locket. My hand, her hand, our hand, was resting on my hip, right over where the small silver bud was tucked away. I focused all of my remaining will, all of my panic and fear into my fingers. It was like trying to push a mountain. Her will was a tidal wave crashing against my own. "No, it is perfect. It is all I have left." I fought back, focusing on the image of my mother's worried face, my grandmother's love, the feel of the sun on my skin in Phnom Penh. I was Likina. I was not a tragedy woven into cloth. With a final, desperate surge of strength, my fingers closed around the locket and I ripped it from the waistband. The sound of tearing thread was deafening, a shriek that was both fabric and spirit. The reflection in the mirror screamed, a silent, agonized howl. The beautiful face contorted, aging 100 years in a second, turning to dust and sorrow. The pressure in my head vanished. The sampot fell from my body, puddling on the floor like a pool of dark water, its ethereal glow extinguished. The cold receded, leaving me shaking and drenched in sweat. The storm outside broke. Rain began to fall in a torrential downpour, washing the world clean. We did not wait until morning. My grandmother and I wrapped the sampot in cloth blessed by the crew Khmer, taking care not to touch the silk itself. It felt inert now, just a piece of old, heavy fabric, but we weren't taking any chances. As we wrapped it, I saw the small tear where the locket had been. It was a tiny, jagged wound in the otherwise flawless pattern. The next day, my uncles took it to the oldest wat in the province, where the head monk performed a ceremony, chanting for hours before locking it inside a stone chetty on the temple grounds, a tomb of silk and sorrow. I thought it was over. I returned to Phnom Penh, to my life of deadlines and traffic jams, but I am not the same. I am haunted, not by a ghost but by the memory of her. I still feel the phantom chill of her touch on humid nights. Sometimes when I look in the mirror too quickly, I see a flicker of her profound sadness in my own eyes. I have a piece of her in me, a stain of her sorrow that will never wash away. And there is something else, something I have told no one, not even my Yi. Last week my grandmother called me. Her voice was strained, thin with a fear I knew all too well. The monk who entombed the sampot had a dream. He dreamt of a loom and the sound of a shuttle flying back and forth, in the deep darkness of the stone chetty. She said the monk went to check on it. When he unsealed the tomb, he found the Sampot lying perfectly folded, and the small tear I had made, the one wound in its perfect skin, was gone. The threads had woven themselves back together. The weaver is patient, her sorrow is eternal, and her work is not yet finished. So I am telling you this as a warning. Be careful of the past. Be wary of things that seem too beautiful, of heirlooms that carry the weight of too many memories. Because some stories don't want to be forgotten, and some spirits will do anything to feel alive again, even if it means weaving themselves into you, thread by painful thread.